I love teaching because it's the only job that never gets boring, and every day is something new. There's new challenges, and I just really like it. And I really like working with kids. You have to be a special type of person that can handle it. And luckily, I work with a ton of people who are good. They love the kids. They want to be here. They love working with kids, and I'm one of those guys too. Like, it's just every day is different, and I like that. So I never get bored. I taught third grade for 7 years, and I think it was my first or second year. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea, but he would come in and he'd smell, and he hadn't bathed, and he just generally just was not taken care of. And as time went on, I found out his mom had some addiction issues and stuff like that. And so just talking with him, he was 8 years old, and we would go and have a talk because he'd get in trouble too. He'd act out and things, and we'd have to talk. And I'd yell at him, and he'd have his recess taken away. But there was also like, how about you and I just go talk, you and me one on one. And so we'd have these talks, and it was about just at 8 he was going to have to start making life decisions as an adult. And I'm sorry, and that stinks. And I told him, no 8-year-old should do it, but that's going to have to happen with you. And we'd walk and we'd have these talks, and we'd chill out. And he moved on, and he moved to another school, and I always thought about him and stuff. And then I found out when he was 18, he came back and visited. Face looked exactly the same, just a little taller. And he's like, just wanted to come say hello. And he was saying hello to a lot of different teachers. And like, can we go talk? And we talked. And he came over here, and he's like, I moved in with. I was like, what's going on? I always worried about you. He's like, well, I moved in with my aunt. I graduated high school. She was just a good influence on him as well. He had graduated high school. He was working as a chef at Meals on Wheels, and he had said a lot of it was the talks we had. And to be remembered that many years later, 10 years later, it meant a lot, and it still means a lot. It's emotional, and that's one of the biggest ones. And I've been lucky enough over the years to have 3 or 4 or 5 students write me and say, this is what I'm doing now. Or Rayanne was like, she was my big tough girl. She could throw a football better than anybody else, and she's like, hey, I'm in the finals right now for softball. Just want to let you know I kept up with what you said about sport. Like, those are the things that come back. Lucas saying I'm teaching music, or I'm going to study teaching music in college. Lucas was one of the ones I barely. He was a quiet kid. I barely remembered. I had to look him up, and finally I was like, oh, I remember Lucas. But he was one of those kids and he wrote me, and he's like, just want to let you know this was the reason. And even when you don't know you're making an impact, you're making an impact. And if you can keep that in your head and you keep that in your mind, it really means a lot.